13 of the 48 club sports offered by the university now require students to submit proof of sex assigned at birth.
I know deep down they would probably want to stay with the university.
No way in hell anybody's going to tell my daughters what to do with their bodies.
This state is one of the worst in child education.
We can't take it anymore, seeing those scenes.
Going to Hillel on Friday night, all my family members kept texting me not to go.
There's a huge housing crisis in Austin. Do you have a plan in place to address this issue? Determined to start your day well? We're up bright and early. From the enriching local stories to the weather forecast later in the day. Rain or shine, at Good Morning Longhorns, we got you covered. Comprised of a studious reporting staff going lengths to get that scoop, and a talented technical team to enhance your screen visually. As a fellow Longhorn, your mornings are better with us. So start your day the Vivo way. Good Morning Longhorns, Wednesdays at 7 a.m. Central Time on TSTV.
Grayson Oliver and Elizabeth Tomolaju were also unable to make it this evening. Here's what they had to say.
What's up, UT Tower Talks? My name is Grayson Oliver. Elizabeth and I are so sorry that we can't make it there in person tonight, but we are sending all of our love virtually. I just wanted to hop on here really quickly and talk about some of the platform points that we're really excited about. But if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to DM us on Instagram. We would love to hear from you and answer any questions that you might have. So our campaign slogan is "Don't mess with progress." We want to make progress today so that we can impact tomorrow. And the word impact is how we've broken down our policy platforms. We have innovation, movement, purpose, affordability, community, and transparency. Now, Elizabeth and I have been in student government for 2 years. We took a break this year, so we've been able to see how it looks from both sides. As soon as we left student government, we had no idea what was going on in it. And Elizabeth and I are trying to work to bridge that gap between students and student government. It's like we want to implement a legislation tracker. That way you guys can see everything that we're working on. We want to post bi-monthly budget reports. That way you guys know that the money is going back to you guys. And Elizabeth are also really dedicated to continue to support DEI despite SB 17. We're well aware of the legal constraints that are present within student government, and we're going to make sure that we continue to support diversity, equity, and inclusion without breaking the law. Another thing that we're really excited about is continuing to support advocacy groups by providing funding from the SG budget. There's a lot of great work that's happening outside of campus that can still be done outside of SG. We want to make sure that we are providing as much support for those groups as we can. We have a super long platform, and I would absolutely love for you all to read it. Definitely do your research. There are so many great candidates running. And again, so sorry we can't be there tonight, but we love you all so much. Hook 'em.
Amin Mashoun and Ava Husseini were set to join us, but were also unable to make it. They declined to send in a video. JD Romero and Eric McCormick were also set to join us, but were also unable to make it this evening. However, here with us, we do have with us Jonathan Wilson. Jonathan is a business administration junior running for president with Morgan Hernandez. He served as the advocacy director of student government this past year and ran in last year's student government election as a vice presidential candidate. Jonathan is also a former SG business representative and vice president of the National Black Law Student Association. And we have Chris Zapata as well. Chris is a business administration junior running for vice president with Amy. Chris currently works as a program peer advisor for Canfield Business Honors. Thank you guys for coming on. How are y'all?
Thank you so much for inviting us. I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to present our platform and honestly just talk about issues surrounding current UT students. Thank you so much.
Pretty good. Excited to be here.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. So to start off, we'll just go down the line of the two of you. Could I have y'all start by just introducing yourselves and briefly describing what your top one policy platform would be if elected?
Yes. So, hi everyone. My name is Chris Zapata, and I'm a junior running for vice president, and I am a business honors major with a double major in finance and a minor in international business. To summarize our entire policy and platform, we believe voice. What we've currently seen within student government is there has not been enough voice outside of this sphere, and we believe me and Amy are that missing puzzle piece required to be able to unite the UT community. We do this through several initiatives, but we really want to have a direct communication channel with other organizations to make sure that we, as president and vice president, go to these organizations, let them voice their issues, and we come back, crunch numbers, crunch data, and be able to provide this for administration in order to provide a variety of solutions for all students here at UT.
Awesome, and we'll dive further into that policy platform in a moment, but John.
Of course. I'm Jonathan. I'm an international business major. I have been in SG for 3 years. I'm running because I believe that the experience sets me up to make all the critical changes that are necessary for it to run and function better. I would say that my top policy point, and this one's big for me because I've been working on it for a couple of years now, food accessibility, specifically subsidized meal plans. I've been working with the Outpost to develop their food support fund. So for them, that's developing a program where each student, no matter what, gets 5 free swipes in a dining hall. Eventually, I want to help them develop to the point where students, after a consultation, can have subsidized meal plan as like a further step to address like deeper needs when it comes to food insecurity.
Awesome. And we'll dive deeper into that in a moment as well. So I'm going to come back to you, Jonathan, with this next question, and then we'll come this way. You've spoken a bit about this already. We talked about your previous SG experience. Can you talk about kind of what you have accomplished within student government?
My big one this year was establishing town halls. So town halls, they happen once a month. They usually have a guest speaker. This past month it was a couple people. It was Outposts. There was our own food security agency, and I guess that would be my most. I guess that would be my biggest accomplishment this year. It was a big thing that Grace and Elle ran on, and as advocacy director, it was kind of my responsibility to make sure that students had a process to like be engaged and like tell us exactly what they want. So I'm very proud of it.
And Chris, do you have student government experience?
No, actually, and that's been a big point of contention within me running within student government is I do not have direct experience. But I personally don't think that this is a weakness. I believe it propels me forward within this space because I bring that diverse perspective that student government needs within the current year. And I believe that with my background within the Macomb School of Business, it aligns me and positions me very well in order to make sure I talk to the right people, make sure that we can make actionable change, and be able to provide for students and give them a voice in order for them to platform and try to create and solve their issues.
Yeah, so can you talk a bit about what you've done to serve the campus community outside of student government then?
Yes. So one of my biggest involvements is within the Canfield Business Honors Program. This is a subset within the Macomb School of Business, and it currently has around 600 total members spread across all 4 graduating years. I serve as a peer advisor, and I'm basically the middleman between the Canfield Business Honors Administration and students. So whenever students have an issue, whether it be academic, professional, or just personal, they come to me within the office, and they allow me to give them mentorship, mentorship, give them guidance, and give them some access to resources in order for them to potentially get to the right solution. Alongside that, I'm also a part of the inaugural cohort for the Darren Walker Scholars Program. This is a program that tries to get individuals like myself that come from low-income communities. And one of my biggest action items within this program is I also mentor individuals like myself. Being first gen and being an only child with immigrant parents, I understand the struggles that people like me face, and I really don't want people like me to struggle the same way I did. So I really want to pass it forward and be able to give back to my community.
Absolutely. So I wanted to dive into some of y'all's specific policy points next. So Jonathan, coming to you, your platform includes reducing printing fees for students, which I understand is something you've been working on already with student government.
Basically, it's something that all of student government has been working on, specifically our legislature. There's two ways we've been trying to go about it. I personally pursued the route of maybe doing it through the University Union Board. I'm on the board this year, so I was like, okay, it could be something that they'd be interested in, a way for them to drive up foot traffic. Student government has also been working on doing this through the university libraries. They just passed a bill to have each student have like $2 worth of printing credits next year. So I guess as president, my goal would just be to make sure that that's implemented. So yeah.
Yeah, what would that look like? How would you kind of approach that implementation aspect?
I would say step one is figuring out which committee to go to. The student government's, and one of its most underutilized assets is the fact that we get to appoint a bunch of students to different committees. I'll say first step is figuring out which committee that we need to send a representative to push that further. But that's the main one. And then also as vice president and president, we'd have the opportunity to like go to the president himself about it. So making sure that he's able to push that from all the way at the top.
Yeah. So zooming out a little, can you explain the committees a little bit further?
Yes.
For anyone who hasn't heard of them?
There's a lot of different ones, like almost too many to count. One of them is University Union Board. I'm on that this year. We just set the direction and tone for the union facilities. So specifically the WCP, the union, and the Hogg Auditorium. There's other ones that have to do with technology. There's ones that have to do with the UT calendar. So yeah, that's the committee system. I don't think we utilize it well in SG. We don't do enough preparation of the students who go to serve on these committees, and we don't get enough feedback from them. I think that's one of the things I want to focus on this year.
And shifting gears entirely, Chris, you have a very different policy platform here. So part of your strengthening community platform, you talk about things like first-year festivals and having bigger socials to bring the student body together. How will these events differ from things like Gone to Texas or Ball at the Mall the university already puts on, and is this the most effective use of SG resources?
Yes, so thank you so much for that question. What I truly believe, what me and Amy truly believe, is that individuals here at UT, it's very diverse, over 40,000 undergrads, and we believe people like myself and Amy really struggle to find a community starting here freshman year, whether it be their family background or just their own personal circumstances. They really might not find a fit within this big community, right? And that was one of the reasons why Amy considered dropping out, because she couldn't find that right connections with people. And we do believe that these initiatives are impactful in nature because it allows people to establish a community. Obviously, this will be voluntary, but we do believe that making sure that people are involved right from the start, right at the start when starting their studies here at UT, will be very impactful and could lead to potential leadership opportunities within themselves, within involvement with other organizations, or even try to set it up to student government experience. So we believe that while some people might think that this might be a misuse of student government resources, we do believe that this initiative will wholeheartedly help UT establish a better sense of belonging overall.
Can you expand on what types of programming this would include?
Yes, so one of our initiatives that we love to do is a first-gen festival, right? And this could include different things depending on the circumstances and the adapted nature of this festival. It could be bringing in local Austinite communities, Austin workers, in order for them to give access to resources. That's a big thing within the Latin community, especially in higher education. They don't have the access to those resources. We want to be a platform, and we want to push students like myself from the Latino community to make sure they have all the necessary resources in order for them to achieve the highest amount that they can here at UT. That's just some of the initiatives that we plan to do within this festival, but it's always up to the students' voices. One of our biggest platforms and policies we've done throughout our campaigning is we've gone to students and let their voices be heard, right? Our policies are dynamic in nature in order to accommodate this, and we believe that through this adaptive process, we've been able to refine our policies and be able to actually find tangible issues that the UT community currently face.
Well, turning to one of those tangible issues, last semester's protests and the university's response has caused a lot of conversation surrounding free speech on campus, and that has been a central issue in the campaigns as well. So, Jonathan, coming to you, your campaign policy directly addresses this in working with the Event Readiness and Response Unit and administration to negotiate greater speech freedoms, you had said. Can you expand on what the goal of these negotiations would be and what freedoms you're trying to address?
Of course. Well, that policy goes into 2 points. One is just being more educated about what we can and cannot say and how we can and cannot say it. 2 is just advocating against it directly, like going to the president and saying this is not okay. We're currently the 8th worst in freedom of speech on the nation at UT, so it's like part of it is just saying, hey, this isn't okay, we need to do something to fix it. We need to talk to people about revising the policy. But in the meantime, we know that our ability to do that is limited, so in the meantime we want to work with the campus event and readiness program to like just make sure that students are educated on how they can protest safely without facing as much pushback as they did last year.
Yeah, and kind of follow up along those lines, you also talked about a code of conduct. How would that differ from what the Event Readiness and Response Unit has already published in terms of what students can and can't do?
I guess it's less about revision and more about advertisement. I feel like a lot of students aren't aware that this is a resource that they can go to, and more about like marketing the resource and making sure that we're working with them to make sure students actually know what they can and cannot do.
Sure, so connecting students to resources that might already be available. Absolutely. Well, do you have anything to add about free speech?
No, I do
think part of your platform, I don't think.
Yeah, well, while it isn't directly addressed within our policies, we do believe that this starts at the administrative level. We need to go to administration and have those tough conversations. Me and Amy are well equipped to handle those conversations through our background within McCombs, and we believe that strong leaders are needed within the space because the Executive Alliance within student government really oversees a good amount of student organization here on campus. So if we have strong leaders at the top level talking with the administration directly, with having those hard conversations, it will trickle down to organizations, whether it be communication, accessibility, or even just being more transparent about kind of like what Jonathan said, what we can or can't do. And that just, like I've kind of been saying, it starts with the leaders, would be president and vice president.
Okay. Do you guys want to be in the administration's ear, kind of starting these conversations?
Yes. One of the biggest issues that we've currently been seeing with students is that their voices are not heard, and this could take on a variety of factors. While student government might not reach them, they don't believe they have a facet into the sphere of student government. So these are underlying issues that the central point is being they don't have that voice currently within student government. Our biggest platform is being able to have that voice for people who are underrepresented within the student government sphere, and being able to hear their opinions, voice their concerns directly goes upscale into administration, us having that direct, hard conversations.
So you're talking about kind of addressing these conversations with administration, but what exactly do you want to address with administration regarding free speech specifically? Yes.
So one of our biggest things that we've seen is students really don't know what they can or can't do, right? And this kind of has like a mind effect where they don't really know what they can do, and this kind of prohibits them to do things that they would want to do, right? So this kind of starts, like I said, at the administrative level. We talk to administration, have those conversations, make sure that we know the right information, and then from there, given our direct communication channels to other organizations, relay that information directly, and this communication channel will be responsive in nature. So if they have any questions or any concerns, we will relay that information back in a timely manner, because we truly do believe that free speech and the implications surrounding that needs to be resolved and accessed in a timely manner.
Okay, so similarly, kind of connecting students with things that are already existing on campus. Okay, so moving to another issue that you guys have both addressed in your campaigns, it's food security on campus is a big issue that students face. So, Jonathan, I believe you've worked with student government on these types of initiatives, and your policy talks about the subsidized meal plans that you were speaking about earlier. Can you expand on how you would accomplish this?
I think I might have mentioned it before, but working with the Outpost, they currently developed a food support fund. This food support fund is supposed to give every student, no matter what, 5 free meal swipes to the dining hall. The idea is to hopefully get it to a point where after a consultation, a student can be granted a full meal plan. That just depends on the size of the fund, though. So basically, my main goal is working with the Outpost to find donors like that. I think as student body president, you're put in a position where your opinion about what those grants would be going to matters a lot. But yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, so connecting the Outpost to kind of move this plan along. All right, have you started talking to the Outpost and putting this into action?
Major thing that I've worked on as advocacy director this past year. Essentially, what we're doing right now is we're writing news legislation to reflect what the food support fund is and kind of plots its further development along the future. So part of that is subsidized meal plans. Part of that is making sure that dine-in dollars roll over and they automatically are added to the fund once it's expired for students. But yeah, that's what I've been working on so far, making sure that student support is very evident when it comes to developing it. It should be launching sometime in the fall or spring, but I'm just happy to have been a small part of it. Yeah.
Sorry, to clarify, which part is launching in the fall? The meal plan?
Ideally, not the meal plans, it would be the food support fund itself, the 5 meal swipes. Ideally, that would be launching in the fall, but we will see.
Okay, so you guys have been working with Outpost. They're kind of on it.
Outpost has been on it, and our goal is just to help them develop it even further.
Absolutely. So, Chris, you guys also have food policy as well. You've talked about allowances for nutrition services for students to work with dietitians. Can you expand on what this means for students and how you would accomplish it?
Yes, so I'll start with that latter part of the question. The way that we'd be able to achieve this is through one of our initiatives called the Longhorn Essentials Fund, and this is where we would get donor money, whether it be from Texas Access or some other outside source, and this would be effort-based in nature because we would have to go to these donors and kind of pitch what we want to do and get that donor money from them. And like I said, it's effort-based, but me and Amy are willing to do the work. We're willing to go to them, make this our full-time job, because we truly understand that students have these issues, these reoccurring issues for years, and we believe that kind of creating this fund in nature will allow us to have more discretionary funds in order to address short-term or even long-term needs at the discretion of student government.
So your funding plan is to go to Texas Access Alumni Association and kind of have them support?
Yes, that would be.
Have you reached out to them at all to kind of start that communication?
Yes, so we do have within the Macomb School of Business, we do have a network of many venture philanthropists, which in layman's terms is just people who want to give money for philanthropy events. And I know personally a couple of them, and they really do enjoy giving back to UT, especially as Texas Access. They understand also the struggles that students face since they were students as well, and they really truly do resonate with some of our policies that we want to implement, and we do believe that if we were elected, we'll start from the get-go, be able to have direct communication with them in order to make sure that this new policy is created in a timely manner in order for it to be feasible in nature.
All right, well, moving to another large issue on campus, SB 17, we're continuing to deal with the effects of this and seeing how exactly it'll affect the campus community. So Jonathan, your platform talks about working with student organizations that were previously housed within the Multicultural Engagement Center, which of course was disbanded following the implementation of SB 17 here on campus. Can you talk about what those collaborations would look like, especially given that student government as a university-sponsored organization is subject to SB 17 as well?
Mostly our policy goes over creating direct lines of communication, so making sure that we have personnel assigned to be meeting with organizations that have been affected. So specifically, I would say sending our advocacy policy director to go meet with organizations like the Rooted Collective or the former.
You currently hold, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or no, the advocacy policy director would be. It's confusing. I'm the advocacy director.
Okay.
I would be over the advocacy policy director.
Okay.
Not that,
I see it.
but
It makes sense.
yeah, making sure that they're are direct lines of communication that are reliable. One thing I noticed this past year is that when we're trying to get in contact with them about like fixing the problems that they kind of faced last year, we don't really have a system for doing it. We don't have a person that was in charge of it. We didn't have a list of contacts. It was kind of just figuring out. We knew people that were upset, and we knew that we needed to help them, but it was harder to help them because we don't have an actual relationship with those organizations formally. So like our goal this year is to make it formal. That way it's not just a situation where we're trying to like feel it out every single time that we have to get in contact with them.
Okay, so establishing more permanent communication.
Yeah, permanent, reliable communication.
Is this something you started as advocacy director?
It's not something that I've set up. Like what I'm imagining is recurring meetings. It's not something that I've set up or have my staff done, but it's something I would really want them to do in the future.
Awesome. And does your platform include any SB 17 related policy?
It also does not directly address anything, but kind of what we touched on a little bit earlier. We truly believe that it starts at the administrative level. Kind of with the uncertainty regarding this new kind of environment, we need to talk to administration first in order for us to make sure we have concrete evidence and concrete rules in order to know what we can or can't do. Going forward from that, relating it to organizations, make sure that they're aware and understand that this would be the environment we would have to work in, and make sure that they're able to kind of still create impact within their communities while taking into consideration the legality of everything.
Okay, so also communication, kind of establishing that line of communication. Well then, for both of you, what would you hope the end goal of that communication would be for these organizations?
I guess to just further understand their problems before we try to solve them. Sure. And I think Bill 17 has affected so many different communities in so many different ways, and we can sit here and pretend like we understand, but for a lot of people we don't, because we're not part of those communities. So making sure that we have at least someone in SG who understands that's monitoring the situation, that would be the end goal.
And then for us, I do think that we have to be proactive within these issues. Many organizations are kind of scared, frankly, to voice their opinions because, like I kind of mentioned, they don't have clear boundaries of what they can or can't do. So making sure that we establish those boundaries and being able to have ourselves as a support and guidance for them will allow them to give us more information, give us their issues. From there, we would take next steps regarding that specific matter.
All right, so communication and clarity, hopefully, at the end. All right, moving to campus life, something that affects us all. Chris, your platform talks about sustainable distribution models for things, essential products like birth control and menstrual products. Can you elaborate on what that distribution model would look like?
Yes, so this is one of our newest policies that we implemented, primarily due to whenever we reached out to a couple organizations and privately they would tell us about kind of these issues that they were facing within their own sphere of influence. And we do believe that this is starting to be a big issue regarding our campus, and we need to be proactive in order to make sure that no Longhorn gets left behind, right? We really do understand and feel for the people who believe that they can't, but they don't have the resources to do this, but student government does have a big sphere of influence in order to create new initiatives or within student life, and we believe that we'll be able to provide that. And given the dynamic nature of our policies, we'd be working directly with these organizations to make sure we're clear and understanding of what their needs are and be able to provide actionable results.
So on a practical level, you're talking about distribution of these types of resources. What would that look like?
Yes, so it could be as simple as we going to them and kind of going to each specific organization and asking if there's anything they need, or it could be as complex as starting a kind of resource bank in order for them to come and go and be able to do that. Obviously, within these matters, some privacy is kind of necessary within these products, but we do believe that being able to provide this and being a resource for this will ultimately end up helping a bunch of people that might be shy from this matter.
Okay, so potentially creating some sort of bank, as you called it, with different types of products that students might need access to.
Yes, and the kind of you touched on as well, this will be dynamic in nature. So what we kind of have in mind is our initial products, but we always take feedback. We always want to hear what students think, and that's why our policies are just so dynamic in nature, because we truly believe that we think that these are the issues, but we truly don't know until people come to us and voice their opinions. And that's why, kind of like I mentioned at the start, this is why we want to run. We want to give a voice to those people who really don't truly believe that they have that voice within the current student government.
Yeah, so Grace and Elle are currently working on an initiative that will bring menstrual products to more places on campus. Will this build upon those efforts?
Yes, I do believe that that initiative that we have kind of mimics in nature what they're doing currently, and obviously we collaborate to see what their future plans were, and from there have an open communication of this is what we were thinking, what do you think, what were the feasibility regarding your current term, and kind of just some next action steps. And we do believe that this is something that we'd love to pursue and keep going forward, because like I said, this resource bank will be here long before we're out of office. So we truly want to establish these resources in order for them to be expansive outside of our term ending.
All right, Jonathan, I have a separate question for you, but it looked like you maybe had something to add. No? Okay. Well, one of your policy platform points that would relate to campus life was free Adobe access for certain colleges that might need it. How would you go about implementing something like this?
We start by working with the Synod of College Councils. I think they're working on giving access to all students. I would want to start with Adobe. I think starting small is always a good way to go, and then building your way up. I think that Moody students would probably be the ones that need it the most, so I would start there. I would start by working with the Moody College Council. They would be able to give us the most insight into the problems when it comes to students having to pay for that kind of thing on their own. So starting by meeting with them, figuring out whether this is something that figuring out exactly what they need, any problems that have been faced when trying to get in the first place by working with Senate, and then working from there. I think the first step is just like seeing where people have already left off of it, so that I'd start with Senate.
Have you opened those lines of communication and started talking to them about where they are in that process?
Not as advocacy director. I just know that that's something they've been working on based on like being around in the same space. Sure. But yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much. We will pick this up and talk more policy when we come back from this break. Tower Talks will be right back.
"13 of the 48 club sports offered by the university now require students to submit proof of sex assigned at birth."
I know deep down they would probably want to stay with the university.
No way in hell anybody's going to tell my daughters what to do with their bodies.
This state is one of the worst in child education.
We can't take it anymore, seeing those scenes.
Going to Hillel on Friday night, all my family members kept texting me not to go.
There's a huge housing crisis in Austin. Do you have a plan in place to address this issue? Determined to start your day well? We're up bright and early. From the enriching local stories to the weather forecast later in the day. Rain or shine, at Good Morning Longhorns, we got you covered. Comprised of a studious reporting staff going lengths to get that scoop, and a talented technical team to enhance your screen visually. As a fellow Longhorn, your mornings are better with us. So start your day the Vivo way. Good Morning Longhorns, Wednesdays at 7 a.m. Central Time on TSTV.
Welcome back to Tower Talks. We will be continuing with speaking with our Executive Alliance candidates about their policy platforms. So you guys have both touched on various career services platforms as well within your campaigns. So Jonathan, coming to you, you were talking about a business course that helps with career planning. I believe it's BA 101. And your platform talks about implementing this into the core curriculum. So given that UT's core curriculum is based off the state requirements for the core curriculum, how would you go about implementing something like that?
I guess our first step, that we talked about, was first expanding the amount that's available to students. That would be step number one. And we'd also do that by working with Synod of College Councils. Just advocating for there to be more sections would be the first step to even trying. Making it one of the flag or core requirements, that's farther down the road. But yeah.
All right, so starting out with, right now I believe this is a business restricted course, so opening it up.
Yeah, opening it up and making sure that people have more access to it.
How would you go about doing that?
Like I said, working with Senate, they're the experts when it comes to academics. I would first go back to the Business Council and make sure that they know that this is something SG is working on, or is interested in working on. Then I would work with ideally some of the, then it would be a matter of working with either, like I said before, a committee or either the president themselves about what are the logistics of doing it. But yeah.
All right, do something to add?
Yes, I would like to mention that some schools already do have this style class. I know within the fashion school they do have a professional development class, but when talking to these textile major students, they tell me that the nature and the scope of the class is not as refined as they would want it to. For example, within this course that Jonathan mentions, we do go extensively within recruiting, networking, and even as being able to set up our LinkedIn and how to make it as effective as possible. So I do believe that that's something that other schools that do have this professional business class lack, and I believe that starts at the root, accessibility of resources. We understand how McCombs has a vast variety of resources, whether it be career planning services or even just their alumni network. We believe that if we're able to expand that and kind of touch other schools within this sphere, we believe that that could be a more better and more efficient approach to targeting the professional development imbalance within other schools.
Okay, well your platform also includes something you guys called alternative career fairs for non-traditional careers. So what would determine what an alternative career is, and how would this differ from career fairs already hosted by the university, given that colleges are tailoring their career fairs to their students already?
Yes, so what we currently see within their career fairs, it really targets kind of the main industries. So within the McCombs career fair, it just looks at banking, consulting, marketing, corporate finance, these big name job titles that students love to achieve. But we really don't see those other types like insurance pricing, distressed debt, things regarding that matter. They really don't see that because the school believes that there isn't as much demand for these industries. But we do believe that this is fundamentally a bad way of going about this, because we understand how diverse perspectives people are, even within the business school and even UT in general. We do believe that expanding the job opportunities being shown to students will allow them to kind of refine their skills and be able to kind of go to the industry they would love to go.
So given that these colleges that are putting on these career fairs for their students have a lot of connections that they're calling on to bring these people to these career fairs, how would you guys go about implementing something similar when you maybe don't have the resources that the college has?
Yes, so I think you touched on it a little bit. Like McCombs does have a vast network, and we believe it could start from kind of the grassroots level within kind of spheres of influence that we already know. So for example, me and Amy would be networking with McCombs alumni, and then from there kind of going a little bit broader scope of just the Austin area, the Austin metropolitan area, or even just Texas in general. We do believe that people who already have their established careers love to give back to students, and we've seen this from time to time. And even from some of the initiatives that McCombs have, such as mentorship dinners, they love being able to provide information to students in order for them to hone in their specific skills. So it truly does, at the root of the problem, be an effort-based effort. We would make sure we have the effort to target niche industries in order to make sure that students here at UT do not feel unseen.
All right, and also part of your platform was a UT career app that, among other things, would include like a database of professionals and professional profiles. How would this differ from Hooked-In or even from LinkedIn?
Yes, so McCombs has a kind of a platform like this. It's called Recruit McCombs, and it's a very powerful resource that a bunch of Macomb students use, me and Jonathan. It's where there's job applications, reference books, and also just networking connections. And what I really enjoy about this, and from anecdotes from my friends, is that they really enjoy how it's UT-centric, right? Because LinkedIn is vast in nature, and some people might be overwhelmed by the potential things that they could do. They could network with someone at UT, they can network with someone across the country or even in a different continent. And to some people, that really scares them and that disincentivizes them to try to go out and reach these connections. So we do believe that starting small, whether it be at UT as a whole, in order to kind of unify the colleges into one big app, is a very good grounding step for individuals who then maybe later on would want to venture into those bigger platforms like LinkedIn or other kind of job sites.
So doesn't Hooked-In already kind of accomplish this by making it smaller in just UT and UT alumni?
Yeah, so what we've seen is they don't have those resources to access it. So it could be that we kind of establish and pivot on what they're currently doing, but it honestly starts by going to students and organizations and kind of gathering data to see if they truly believe that this current app is impactful, or would they want to see a new similar in nature app being implemented. So obviously that requires us to be dynamic and being able to proactively go to students in order to get their feedback, because like we've mentioned, we have these big policies, but it wouldn't be anything if these are issues that people don't have.
Okay, so you want to talk to students and see if they're liking Hooked-In, and if not, develop a similar sort of feature.
Yes, in order to refine the scope of that app.
Okay. Jonathan, is there anything you'd like to add about career development?
No, not really.
All right. Well, moving to health and accessibility, you guys both had different platforms on this as well. Chris, I'm going to come to you first again. As part of the awareness campaign for accessibility and health, you talked about mandating training for transportation and health service staff. What will these trainings look like, and how will you mandate a program like that for university staff?
Yeah, so this fundamentally just is an administrative task. So like I've been saying all night, executive alliances and within student government need to have these conversations with administration. And what Amy has seen, because she does have experience with legislation and administrative talks, is they really love data and they really love numbers. So we believe that the current student government might not have access to these numbers, whether it be they are not conducting enough surveys or they're not gathering a large enough sample size to give to administration. We do believe that starting at the root and gathering data from students and being able to show this administration and essentially being like, hey, this is something that students want, this is something that students need, this is something that has to be done. So starting from there and then trickling down the administration branch and then going through faculty workers in order for them to kind of learn a little bit more about this issue, because at the end of the day, UT faculty also have a say within UT. It's not just students voicing their opinions, it's also everyone at UT collectively needs to have a voice within these issues.
All right. And Jonathan, your platform includes making UT more ADA compliant. This is a very big goal. Can you talk about the steps that you guys would take to kind of reach this?
Yeah. Morgan and I talk a lot about, first, the appointment of an accessibility policy director. It's one of the dormant positions within the SG Constitution. So first, appointing one to work with different departments and further understand the needs of students with disabilities. And then also choosing appointments for the Presidential Student Advisory Council, which get to have a direct audience with the university president, now used to be Jay Hartzell, now Jim Davis, making sure that we're looking for candidates for that spot that are well versed in accessibility issues, is what I mean to say. Yeah.
So, well, that was all the specific policy questions I had, but I wanted to open it up to you guys for one final kind of closing thoughts. Why should students vote for you?
Yes, so kind of what I've been saying throughout the night is me and Amy fundamentally believe we're the missing puzzle pieces within the current student government. And this is primarily due to our non-traditional background currently seen within the student government sphere. We do believe that Amy and I have a diverse perspective, and it'd be very impactful whenever we were in student government in order to make sure that all voices are heard. Currently, like I've been saying, there's not enough diverse voices being heard within their issues, and we believe that Amy and I's collective effort by reaching these organizations that have frankly never been tapped before. We've talked to over 35 organizations, and half of them have been saying they've never once gotten reached out by student government, and we believe that this is a key issue that should be changed. And me and Amy are up for the task, and we will make sure that we have frequent talks with them, frequent visits with them in order to make sure that their voice is heard.
Jonathan.
Well, I would say because my alliance has the advantage of having both someone from outside of student government who understand what it means to work with higher administration, someone to bring an outside perspective, but then also someone who's been in student government basically their entire school career, understands how or what internal reform can be done to make it function the best, while also taking into consideration what are things that I don't understand because I'm in the student government bubble. But I think it's an advantage that we have both, and that both just seem so highly qualified to do the job. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking time out of your evenings to talk to us this evening.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. When Tower Talks comes back, we'll be talking all things politics. We'll be right back.
Thirteen of the 48 club sports offered by the university now require students to submit proof of sex assigned at birth.
I know deep down they would probably want to stay with the university.
No way in hell anybody's going to tell my daughters what to do with their bodies.
This state is one of the worst in child education.
We can't take it anymore seeing those scenes.
Going to Hillel on Friday night, all my family members kept texting me not to go.
There's a huge housing crisis in Austin. Do you have a plan in place to address this issue? Determined to start your day well? We're up bright and early. From the enriching local stories to the weather forecast later in the day. Rain or shine, at Good Morning Longhorns, we got you covered. Comprised of a studious reporting staff going lengths to get that scoop, and a talented technical team to enhance your screen visually. As a fellow Longhorn, your mornings are better with us. So start your day the Vivo way. Good Morning Longhorns, Wednesdays at 7 a.m. Central Time on TSTV.
Welcome back to Tower Talks. Here with me now, we have reporter Anish Tiwari here to talk about everything that's happening in the Texas Capitol and national politics. How are you doing, Anish?
I'm doing great, Rita. Thank you so much. Getting started, Texas teachers could be seeing a pay raise in the near future. On February 26, the Texas Senate unanimously passed Senate Bill 26. That bill would expand an annual allotment that gives school districts funds for each teacher in its employment that has a special designation. Those designations are based off their performance under the existing teacher allotment initiative. The bill is meant to combat staffing challenges for recruiting and retaining teachers by making their pay more competitive compared to their peers nationwide. According to the Texas Tribune, SB 26 would have an annual cost of approximately $5 billion per year. SB 26 was introduced by Conroe Republican and UT Austin alum Senator Brandon Creighton. It has received bipartisan support. However, despite bipartisan support in the legislature, SB 26 has its detractors. According to an interview given to Fox 7 Austin, Clay Robinson of the Texas State Teachers Association stated that focusing on benefits alone will not be enough to alleviate staffing problems. But Robinson hopes that differences between SB 26 and proposed policy from the House will result in teachers making more than is currently listed in either proposal. Detractors also expressed concerns about other school staff, such as nurses, not being included in the retention bonus scheme. SB 26 will be voted on by the Texas House in the upcoming weeks. Amidst nationwide pushback against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs, Texas universities could see their state funding cut if they do not reduce or eliminate those programs. According to the Texas Tribune, state budget proposals from both the Senate and the House would see tens of millions of dollars being cut from public universities via a reduction in the Institutional Enhancement Fund. UT Austin would see $40 million less in funding than the present two-year funding period. At a Texas Public Policy Foundation summit, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick stated that the amount of future funding universities receive is tied to the presence of DEI programs on campus. In recent years, state officials have tied universities' access to state funds to legislation that dictates internal policy like faculty tenure and DEI programs. If universities push back against the legislature's attempt to exert control, they would see their funding disappear with the end of those legislative proposals. The loss of funding would likely result in the need to increase the cost of tuition for students across the state, which Republicans, including Governor Greg Abbott, oppose. Here at the UT Austin, former President Jay Hartzell, in testimony to the Senate Finance Committee, stated that $40 million being cut from the university's funding will have negative results. Hartzell claimed that the funding not only goes towards operational expenses, but also towards making the university competitive in high technology research. While the cuts from the state have yet to be voted on, UT Austin has already seen restructuring in student services. Last year, Senate Bill 17 banned DEI offices at Texas public universities, resulting in the on-campus Multicultural Engagement Center being shuttered. There also have been bureaucratic restructuring, with new student services being in the process of being dissolved. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the Oval Office in Washington, D.C. on Friday, February 28th. During the visit, Zelensky spoke to President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, eventually having a tense exchange. According to footage of the confrontation published by the PBS NewsHour, Trump and Vance argued that Zelensky was ungrateful for material, intelligence, and training support from the United States to oppose the ongoing full-scale invasion by Russia. In response to criticism over refusing to cease fighting, Zelensky invited Vance to visit Ukraine, which he refused. The confrontation was captured and aired by several outlets. Zelensky was in Washington to sign a minerals deal that would give the United States a percentage of revenue Ukraine receives from the sales of natural resources such as minerals. Earlier in the day, he met with a bipartisan group of lawmakers. After the exchange, President Zelensky departed the White House without having signed the deal. The failure of the meeting is the most recent development in the Trump administration's attitude towards the Russia-Ukraine war. After his departure from the White House, Zelensky stated his regret in being unable to reach a deal with the Trump administration for future aid and a plan to end the war. Trump has expressed no regret over how the meeting unfolded. In an interview on Fox News later on, Zelensky said he did not believe he owed Trump an apology for the exchange in the Oval Office, but he expressed his regret that it unfolded on television. He said, quote, "I think it was not good," end quote. But he said he believes his relationship with Trump and America will survive. Following the confrontation, Zelensky met with other NATO leaders in London on Sunday. The summit of mostly European leaders agreed to a 4-point plan to guarantee Ukraine's defense in the event of a peace deal with Russia. After the summit meeting, Zelensky said in a statement that the deal to end the war with quote, "very far away," end quote. This drew an angry response from President Trump, who accused Zelensky of not wanting peace and said, quote, "America will not put up with it much longer," end quote, on his Truth social media network. In a news conference today, Trump said that he did not believe the unsigned minerals agreement was dead and that he would provide an update on the deal on Tuesday. Earlier today, Trump ordered a pause on all U.S. aid going to Ukraine. The pause applies to all military aid not already on the ground in Ukraine. In a statement, a White House official said, quote, "The president has been clear that he is focused on peace. We are pausing and reviewing our aid to ensure that it is contributing to a solution," end quote. Today was Water Day at the Texas Capitol, an event organized by the Texas Water Foundation to encourage the passage and implementation of legislation addressing Texas's water shortage. Major pushes were made to the auditorium full of legislators and staffers to pass bills relating to pipe maintenance, prolonged investment through a dictated revenue stream, and continued sourcing efforts for drought-affected areas. Texas Water Development Board Chairwoman L'Oreal Stepney delivered a keynote at the event just days after a confrontation with Representative Brian Harrison during an appropriations subcommittee hearing went viral. Stepney received a standing ovation from the room after her speech. Multiple pieces of water-related legislation have been proposed this session, and Governor Greg Abbott declared it an emergency item. Tower Talks will dive more into the state of water in Texas and what this legislator is likely to do next Monday. Tune in to hear more.
Thank you so much, Anish. Tower Talks will be back next week, as you said, to discuss water policy. Be sure to follow us on social media at TSTV News on X, formerly known as Twitter, and at Tower Talks TSTV on Instagram. There you'll be able to find out when our next episode will be airing and the topics that we will be covering. Check us out at tstvnews.com online and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, Newsroom Notes. From all of us here in the studio, thank you for joining us this evening and good night.